Hi, this is Tuhon Aditya from LightHaven and welcome to day 5 of our solo training series. Today we're going to be covering double knife. Before we begin though, I have two big announcements to make. The first is that this is not just going to be 1 week worth of training, we're actually going to be putting up another full week of training for you guys to follow along with. The idea being that this should be sort of a staple for you to add into your month of training. So it could be that the first week you do what we've just covered, the next week you do what we're going to cover ahead. Both series are going to be are going to be interlinked. So what we did in the first week, double stick, it's going to be carried forward into the second week double stick, except second week is going to be sort of like a building upon the foundations that we laid in the first week. So it might be, I don't know if advanced is the right word, but it will be building upon whatever we've done in the first week. The second announcement is that we have finally launched our Patreon page. We've been really blessed to have a lot of emails and a lot of messages from people across the world saying they're really enjoying the stuff that we're putting out there and they want to find ways to support the school. And so we thought the Patreon page would be the easiest way to do it. To commemorate our Patreon page being launched, we're going to be launching our follow-up solo training series on Patreon, except it's going to be free for everyone. It's just a way for you guys to go and see the stuff we're offering. In case you'd like to support the school as well, you feel free to, but it's going to be free for everyone on that Patreon page. And 2 weeks after the Patreon page launches, it's going to come onto YouTube for everyone. So depending on the date that you're viewing this, either it's going to be in this playlist down below, or it's going to be on the Patreon page. So the first thing we're going to start with is our warm up. So we're going to take our two sticks, hold them in the middle, and then rotate them 100 times. Now I want to make sure that I'm rotating as much as I can to the front and as much as I can to the back, and it's not just this. I want to rotate, I want to stretch all the tendons, I want to stretch my joints all the way up my arm. I want to rotate as much as possible. Now depending on how strong you are, choose the weight of the sticks that you want. Also, as you get more tired, you can bend your arms. You don't have to keep them straight for the whole 100, even though it's better. However, don't bring them in front of you because the sticks bump into each other. So in the middle, rotate 100 times. The next thing we're going to do is, if you guys are familiar with the Dirty Dozen, this is derived from Dirty Dozen number 11. If you're not, we're going to do this from the beginning anyway. The footwork we're doing is your T footwork. So I'm just going to step in front, no weight on the front leg and a sink on the back leg. As my sticks open, my leg is going to go out. I start with my sticks crossed in front of my body. The first set is going to be low, then medium, then high. As I open my sticks, my leg comes out. And again, I'm looking for my stick to go all the way to the bottom, 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 both ways. So again, make sure you're choosing a weight that you're comfortable with so you're not injuring your wrists. One thing people do is they tend to open their chest with this. Don't open your chest. Let this be a wrist, elbow, shoulder motion and not a chest motion. And I want this to be facing down and facing down. It's just slightly different from Dirty Dozen number 11, but still, down, down. And we're going to do 30 of these with the hands down low. After 30 down low, the next one we're going to do is 30 with the hands in front of my chest. Same thing. As the sticks open, my leg comes out. 30 of these. From here, the last one we're going to do is my hands above my head. So my wrists are crossed. As the sticks open, my leg comes out. Now make sure that here I'm looking to be almost parallel to the ground, almost parallel. And the stick faces forward, as much as I can make it. So from here, open, and 30 of these. One additional thing you can do that I do for coordination's sake is that every time I close my hands, I switch which hand is on top. So if my left hand is on top, now my right hand's on top. That's just something that I do. It works another layer of coordination. You can do that or you can't do that, it's up to you. But 30 low, 30 medium, 30 top, 30 high. For double knife, we're going to be working with our ranging footwork. Now, earlier I have given you the option, if you want to do the ranging footwork with your weapons in your hand or with your weapons or empty hands. With double knife, I suggest that you do this footwork even if you are doing it just the ranging footwork as a drill on its own. Still keep the weapons in your hand. A big part of double knife, a big chunk of double knife is being able to coordinate both weapons without cutting yourself. This is where it begins. Can you keep your weapons in a sort of guard, in a ready position without stabbing yourself, cutting yourself, or endangering yourself? So whether it's in saksa or pakal, I'm going to keep my hands up almost like if I was empty hand, how I would have in a guard. It's going to be up here. If it's in saksa, it's going to be up here. One little sort of thing that I like to do, that if it's in saksa, I almost imagine like the tip of a triangle. So the tip of the triangle is meeting somewhere here and both my knives are facing into the triangle. If it's pakal, I'll sort of either keep the weapons sort of facing my opponent or a little bit down so that the edges are facing my opponent. You might have your own personal preferences about edge in versus edge out. I prefer my edge out for a whole bunch of reasons. If you are curious, I'm going to leave a link to that video down below. So we're just going to work our footwork first, keeping our hands up, working the single step version and the double step version in all 6 directions. When I'm working the single step, I am looking to keep my entire foot on the ground and I'm looking to build structure. When I'm working the double step, I'm working mobility. So I'm staying more on my toes and I'm looking to get my whole body off center line. When I am doing the single step, I'm just getting my head off center line. So those are a couple of things that you should keep in mind. Again, there's a whole other separate video that I've made on this footwork, which I will link down below. So we're going to work this footwork, ranging footwork, for 3 minutes. We're going to do 2 rounds, making sure that we are alternating the single step and the double step. When we're dealing with double weapons, more so double knife than other double weapons, we are dealing with a couple of very prevalent patterns. You have your crossing patterns, you have your diagonal lines, and you have your circular lines, especially in Pakal, because we want to make use of that hooking feature. So the first drill we're going to do is just drilling those circular lines. The reason we're doing this is because, again, I have come across a lot of even senior practitioners who have a kind of hard time doing this, keeping in mind the entire checklist, right? So keeping in mind doing the ranging footwork correctly as well as the checklist required for your circular lines in Pakal. Now the size of the circle is I'm going to go from in front of my nose down to my groin and back up. So that's it. I'm not going to go higher. I'm not going to be lower than this. I'm not going to be higher. I'm not going to be lower than this. From my nose to my groin. I also want to alternate the circles. So right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. I also want to make sure that my hands come up. So it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. My hands are immediately coming up and the circle is constantly moving. I'm never stopping the circle and then coming up. So be able to coordinate that. Be able to coordinate that my hands are constantly making these circles. For the sake of this exercise, because this is more than a thrusting exercise, this is an exercise designed to teach you how to use the hooking motion that the Pakal grip really excels at. So we're going to have our tip facing in, almost as if you can imagine, for the sake of simplicity right now, it works on other things as well, but just to make things easier, you can imagine a straight punch coming down center line and you are hooking that punch, hooking, hooking, hooking. So for that reason, I have the tip of my weapon facing in and not facing out. Now, one more thing. I want to have a consistent coordination between my hands and my legs through the entirety of the drill I'm doing. What I mean by that is if I'm starting with my right hand and my right leg, then I don't want to, or same hand, same leg, I don't want to in the middle of my drill find myself going opposite hand, opposite leg, and then again coming back same hand, same leg, and then again finding myself opposite hand, opposite leg. I want to be as deliberate as possible when I'm doing these drills. So I want to maintain whatever coordination I start with, I want to maintain that through the drill. The easiest way to do that is that every step you take, you're making 3 or a multiple of 3 circles. If I do 2 or a multiple of 2, if I go same hand, same leg, so I'm going same hand, same leg, that's 2 circles. Now I've gone opposite hand, opposite leg. However, if I do 3 or a multiple of 3, I start same hand, same leg, I go 1, 2, 3, I'm still on same hand, same leg, 2, 3, still same hand, same leg, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So for every step, whether single step or double step, we want 3 circles. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Double step. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Spend a good amount of time on this and count your circles. Very quickly what happens is once someone starts to get the hang of it, they stop counting their circles and very quickly that coordination has gone. Continue counting the circles through the entirety of the sets we're going to do. We're going to be doing 2 sets of 3 minutes each and really do this nice and slow, spend time on it. This is one drill that I've seen a lot of people struggle with. Next, we're going to work our following motions with our basic diagonal lines. We're doing this because, again, like I said in the beginning, the biggest thing a lot of people struggle with is coordinating their knives so they're not cutting each other all the time. So whether you're doing in saksa or whether you're doing in pakal, knowing where to load your knife and how to turn your body so you're not stabbing yourself or cutting your own hand is really, really important for a lot of the more complicated stuff that we're going to be doing and the partner work that eventually you will end up doing with a lot of these exercises. So we're going to do angle 1, angle 2 with our ranging footwork. Now it's up to you whether you want to go same hand, same leg or whether you want to be opposite hand, opposite leg with this. My advice would be spend time working on both types of coordination, but not within the same drill. If I start same hand, same leg in one drill, I'm going to keep same hand, same leg for the entirety of that round. So with ranging footwork, angle 1, angle 2, pakal or saksa, it's up to you. I'm going to go angle 1, angle 2, angle 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, double step, coming back, double step, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. In saksa, I'm going to change the orientation a bit. So I go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. Now, one of the main reasons I demonstrated both grips with ranging footwork is because I wanted you guys to see where I place my other hand when one hand is striking. Because this is where people get cut. Either they stab themselves, either they stab their own shoulder, or they'll cut their own forearm. So when I'm doing pakal, I tuck my knife against my chest. However, in both grips, there'll be times when I tuck my knife against my chest. One thing I make sure that I'm doing, especially in saksa, because my tip is dangerously facing my shoulder, don't do this of course, here diagonally, is as I strike, whichever grip, my whole body moves. It's not just my shoulder. If just my shoulder moves, my knife's going to go into it. If my whole body moves, then my knife is still in the same position relative to that shoulder. The shoulder is not coming in to be caught by the knife blade. So make sure your whole body, your hip is moving. And it's not just this. That's how you're going to stab yourself. Same thing when I'm in pakal and I'm tucking it against my chest. If my entire body is moving, I do not run the risk of going and cutting myself. So make sure my hip turns. If my hip turns, my knife is going to move along with it. And that's going to keep my hand safe from getting cut by the edge or by the tip. One other place you can keep your knife, load your knife, is by your hip. This is a safer option in the beginning and an important option, especially if you have longer knives. You're going to have to load by your hip, and you can do it with Pakal and Saksa. You can be loading by your hip, ready to go, especially for diagonal lines. However, there's a caveat to this. When we are doing Pakal, my personal preference is that I don't like to load my knife by my hip. I like to have my hands up. So I like to have my knife hand somewhere near my chest, because that gives me the ability to choose whether I want to slash across, whether I want to circle and slash, whether I want to angle one, angle two, whether I want to come from the bottom, whether I want to knife jab. Having my hands up just gives me a lot more options than having my knife tucked by my hip in Pakal. In Saksa, it depends. There might be times when I tuck it to my hip and then use that as a launching point for other attacks. It really depends on what it is that I'm doing. But again, in Saksa, if I could choose a preference, I would prefer to have my hands up at all times rather than having it down. So we are going to be doing angle 1, angle 2, 2 rounds of 3 minutes each. Choose one grip per round. You can do 1 round Pakal, 1 round Saksa. You can also do 4 rounds, 2 rounds Pakal, 2 rounds Saksa, but each round is going to be 3 minutes each. We did our circular lines, we did our diagonal lines. Now we're going to be combining the two. So I'm going to be using the hook of Pakal as to circle, and then come back with a slash and then an angle 2. I'm going to be doing this with my ranging footwork. Now again, it's up to you whether you want to go same hand, same leg, or if you want to go opposite hand, opposite leg. They have different applications, so do them both, but spend 1 round doing only one coordination. If you want to do the opposite coordination, then do it in the next round. So the way I'm going to do this is, I'm going to, as I'm stepping out, I'm circling, slash across, thrust, circle slash 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 thrust. Now again, I have put out a video on drills that I think are essential for knife. This is part of that, except in the single knife version. I'm going to leave a link to that down below. It has this drill in much more detail, what you're doing, what you're looking to do, your relationship with center line, etc. So essentially, again, just to make life easier, this can be for diagonal lines, can be for straight thrust, low thrust, high thrust, almost anything. But for making life easier, just for now, I want you to imagine a straight jab cross coming towards you. And you're stepping off center line, getting your head off center line, scooping that punch, coming back with a slash across that face of the neck, and coming back with an angle 2 thrust. Now, the angle 2 thrust is important because, especially when we move this on to an empty hand version, this diagonal frame becomes very important. Sometimes I will need to frame against somebody else's body, and for that this diagonal frame is really important and very handy. So I want to go angle 2 thrust and not horizontal or vertical. I go scoop slash thrust, other hand, other leg, scoop slash thrust. I'm going to be doing the single step and the double step version of this. Scoop slash thrust, scoop slash thrust, scoop slash thrust. 1, 2, 3. And now double step. For the sake of again practice right now, you can keep the scoop a little bit big. It depends on how familiar you are with parrying a jab cross. If you're more familiar with it, you can keep that scoop small. If you're less familiar with it, you can keep that scoop a little bit big. But the concept is, a punch is coming, I'm scooping and slashing. You often see this in empty hand fighting as well. Punch is coming, you're scooping the punch, coming back with a hook or an elbow or something along those lines. So we're going to be doing 2 rounds of 3 minutes each. Now let's do some knife-based Sinawali work. The first pattern that we're going to do is actually the first pattern of Sinawali I'd ever learned from Grand Tuhon. The pattern is going to be thrust slash thrust. All of the attacks are high line attacks. So I'm going to start again, you can start from here, but for the sake of simplicity, one hand's going to be up, almost loading for a straight thrust. The other hand's going to be below. You guys can see me use this sort of a grip oftentimes in double knife. This is an option that you have. This is how I was taught double knife. There's a whole bunch of application of what this finger can do. But if you just want to be here, honestly, I prefer this grip, or if you want to be here, that's really up to you. The more you train, the more you sort of figure out what grip you prefer. So from here, I'm going to start in this way, with one hand ready for thrust, one hand ready for slash. I'm going to thrust and pull it back, almost like I'm thrusting across, pulling it back. The top hand, that's going to be the journey of the top hand. So I go thrust, slash from below, thrust, and then I tuck this underneath. So thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust. The footwork you want to use with this is up to you. When we did our double stick Sinawali, we were moving forward. That you can do also, whichever hand is striking first, that's the leg that's going to be in front. So I'm going to step in front, thrust, slash, thrust, step in front, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust. Similarly, stepping back, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can also do this in Pakal, where you go thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust. Now, these are handy patterns to have because they give you a bunch of options in application whenever we do this. So while it would be easier for me to just go thrust, 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 thrust in Pakal, it helps a lot for me to be able to know when I can turn something into a slash and when I cannot, or how to turn something into a slash. So if I'm going thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, this same thing can as easily turn into slash, 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 or thrust, 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 thrust. Same for saksa. Everything can be a slash. Slash, 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 slash. Everything can be a thrust. Thrust, 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 thrust. Or what we're doing right now, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash, thrust. For right now, for the drill that we're going to do, I want 2 rounds of 3 minutes each. If you are going to be doing both saksa and pakal in this, do 1 full round in saksa and then 1 full round in pakal, or do 4 rounds, 2 rounds in saksa, 2 rounds in pakal. The footwork is up to you if you want to do ranging footwork or if you want to just move up and down in a straight line. Now we're going to end with some Anyo. So just being able to free flow, combining everything that we have done, all our thrusts, all our circles, circles slash jabs, circle again, come back with an angle 1, angle 2, be able to circle out, thrust, come back. And the cool thing about double knife is that I can express many different sort of weapon systems through it. Now I'm doing my Sinawali, what I just worked on. That's my angle 1, angle 2, angle 1, angle 2, thrust and slash, 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 slash. I can be thrusting on the same side, coming back again, thrust, slash, all the same side. I can be doing scissoring motions. I can be doing circular motions. And it's sort of a really fun way of expressing all the other weapon systems. This you can do a lot of stuff that you would do in double stick, a lot of stuff you'll do in single stick, single knife, spiral daga, and a lot of your double knife stuff will now lead into empty hands. That's why we did it before empty hands. A lot of the same motions are going to lead into our empty hand work. So for a free flow or an Anyo, we're going to be doing 2 rounds of 3 minutes each. Again, make sure you practice equally in Pakal and in Saksa. And for those of you who are uber adventurous, you can be doing 1 hand Pakal, 1 hand Saksa. If you do this though, make sure you change which hands in Pakal, which hands in Saksa, so you're working both sides equally. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out the follow-up series, it's going to be on our Patreon page from the 27th, which is Sunday, onwards. Again, for the first 2 weeks, it's going to be on Patreon, but free for all, and then it's going to move onto YouTube as well. If you have anything to add to the discussion of this video, of the double knife video, leave that in the comments down below. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, please also leave that in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot, and we're super grateful for your constant support. Thank you guys so much for watching, and come back tomorrow for empty hands.